Now you have thousands of subscribers, maybe tens of thousands. You have a baseline of an audience, and then you can break out and start doubling down on the strategy from there. And then your channel probably would start to grow, something like my Digital Drop podcast channel has, and it would start to break out, and you're starting to acquire an audience. So how do you exponentially grow your channel? Like, see this spike right here where my channel was kind of getting a middling amount of views, and then suddenly it spiked, and then suddenly it started going all the way up, like 250,000 views on a very niche topic, and in basically no time, right? 0 to 250,000 views a month isn't too bad for a niche channel. And the answer is thumbnails. So let's talk about thumbnails. So what I talked about earlier, discovering these topics to Buddy a Keyword Explorer, link in the description below, by the way. If you want to just download that tool for free, do it. And if you purchase anything using my link, I get credit for that, so I'd appreciate it. You can get your titles through Keyword Explorer and finding ones that have a good overall score. That's how you can start with your title. But you need an accompanying thumbnail that is incredibly clickable, because the main things that are driving the YouTube algorithm today, your CTR, which is your click-through rate, it's going to be your audience retention, and I'll simplify it and call it like platform time, the amount of time that people stay on YouTube. You want to be boosting all three of these numbers as much as possible to grow your YouTube channel. And if you do, the YouTube algorithm is going to love you if you do all three of these things, and you'll go up with your channel. How to figure out topics that will get you new eyeballs. But click on your video when your video shows up in YouTube search. So let's talk about basic thumbnail composition rules that you can follow. This is a tool that I use called Canva. You guys can use Photoshop. You guys can use any program that you want to make your thumbnails. I use Canva because it's fast. So let's talk about the basic composition of a decent thumbnail. Let's just grab a thumbnail that did fairly well. How about we just look at today's thumbnail, and let's break down my reasoning behind the design of this thumbnail. So generally speaking, you only want to have 3 elements in your thumbnail. The reason why is obviously when people are watching content on YouTube or they're browsing and they're looking at their mobile phone is going to have a limited amount of real estate. And if you have more than 3 things on your thumbnail, then it's just going to be difficult to figure out what the video is actually about. So your main objective with your thumbnail is to have them look at the thumbnail and in 1 second completely understand all of the value of your video in 1 second. You just show all of the value up front, and you show what they're going to get by watching your video. Because when you're browsing for content through YouTube search, I'm going to use the classic example of how to tie a bow tie. As you can see, when you're searching for the topic, how to tie a bow tie, all you see in the thumbnails here, guys, is finished results of bow ties looking tied. And so when you're making content for YouTube search, you want to show your audience the final result of what they're going to get from watching your video when they're searching. If you were just showing like an untied bow tie just sitting there, like people wouldn't click that because they're searching for how to tie a bow tie to see a finished tied bow tie. And so don't hide the value, put it all up front. Another thing about all of these results here, guys, is that they're very simple composition on their thumbnails. Literally, this thumbnail has 1 element, a bow tie that is tied. This thumbnail has 2 elements, one guy teaching how to tie a bow tie, and then another guy learning how to tie a bow tie. This thumbnail has 2 elements, a bow tie, and then text that says how to tie a bow tie. You should only have up to 3 elements in your thumbnail if you want people to click it in YouTube search. This one right here that has the least views of all of these has 3 elements. Notice how when you get more complicated, you go further down YouTube search. The more complicated your thumbnail gets, the further down, generally speaking, you're going to go into YouTube search. This thumbnail down here at the bottom, which is still a good thumbnail, has 3 elements. 1 picture of a tied bow tie, 1 picture of a poorly tied bow tie, plus it's got a check mark and X. So it's got 3 different elements in it. It's more complicated. So the more simple you can get with your thumbnails, the better. But I'm going to show you examples of thumbnails I've done on my YouTube channel that are insanely simple, that outperformed competitor thumbnails and ended up making me a lot of money. You see my gear recommendations playlist right here? Do you see how simple all these thumbnails are? 200,000 views, 100,000 views, 40,000 views, 25,000 views. There's no text, there's no extra crap. It's just literally showing element number 1 and element number 2. Element number 1, element number 2, 1 and 2. And this one literally has 1. Notice how simple these thumbnails are? These videos in this playlist have made me $20,000. I've made $20,000 off the 9 videos in this playlist. And a big reason why these videos took off is because I simplified the thumbnails from overly complicated YouTube thumbnails that had text all over them and an arrow and all this garbage to just these super clean thumbnails that have bright colors behind them, and they just literally show the thing I'm talking about in the thumbnail. So this is a lesson for all of you guys to learn, is that simplicity works.